Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg had a private meeting with the president-elect today at Mar-a-Lago. This was just confirmed by Trump aide Stephen Miller. Now, Zuckerberg did not endorse either candidate during the election, but did tell Bloomberg in an interview that Trump standing up and pumping his fist, telling crowds to fight, fight, fight after the first assassination attempt was, quote, one of the most badass things I've ever seen in my life. Back with us, Maggie Haberman, who reported that story for the New York Times. So, Maggie, what more can you tell us about this meeting between the president-elect and Mark Zuckerberg?
So we're still learning about it, John. It was earlier today. Zuckerberg may still be there. Zuckerberg showed up in Florida with some of his advisors. It's not clear that whether Zuckerberg saw this meeting or Trump saw this meeting, but one person described it as Trump essentially saying, "Hey, why don't you come over to Mar-a-Lago?" And as you said, Zuckerberg had expressed praise for Trump earlier this year for his defiant posture after he was shot in Butler, Pennsylvania, by a would-be assassin. It's interesting. A couple of things about this. Clearly Zuckerberg wants to have a better relationship with Trump. Zuckerberg, once upon a time, was a funder of an immigration advocacy group. Stephen Miller is Trump's one of his most powerful advisors, and also the person who largely drives or shares with Trump his hardline immigration agenda. And so it's really interesting hearing Stephen Miller talking about this meeting on television earlier. I think we will learn more, but we are seeing, as with a number of industries, but certainly the tech industry, a lot of people coming to Trump and not the other way around.
That Miller.
And basically what's happening is that everybody is deciding that they want to kiss the ring because they understand that the adults is back in power. Now, one thing that I do remember is I remember Zuckerberg expressing regret. And I think I reported about this less than a year ago, but Zuckerberg was expressing regret about the fact that he had suppressed certain things. And I'm assuming, and I'm not sure if this was around the time that Elon Musk had bought X or a little bit afterwards, or Twitter, formerly known as X, or X, formerly known as Twitter. And so Zuckerberg had basically expressed some regret for working with the Biden administration shortly after Biden took office, or right when Biden took office, to suppress stories and then to also support the suppression of the Hunter Biden story, which obviously affects the Biden and Harris administration at that particular time. But basically what you're seeing is that people are starting to kiss the ring. And they understand that the adults is back in office. They understand that in order for them to really have a better relationship and for their business to be able to run more effectively, then they have to start brokering and deploying some level of diplomacy to make sure that they're good. I see that the Justice Department has been suing Google in order to try to break them up, trying to say that they're a monopoly based off of their AdSense business. One of the most recent things that's come out of that is that they're trying to force them to sell Chrome as well as their AI technology, which is crazy and egregious, which would absolutely devalue the company exponentially. But they're trying to break them up, and that's closely being watched by Apple because Apple receives a significant amount, upwards of over $20 billion with the agreement and a partnership that they have with Google to make sure that they are the number one browser once people start to type things in and they search for things. And so AdSense generates a significant amount of revenue, still the biggest revenue generator for Google. And you have to start to pay attention to what's happening in the tech world, because why wouldn't you want a person that controls all three legislative branches to be one of your greatest partners? We've seen how that's playing out for Elon Musk. Tesla, SpaceX, we can call those space companies and auto manufacturers, but in reality, they're technology companies. And so why would they allow for Elon Musk to continue to get the heads up by building a great relationship? I've seen that Jeff Bezos also said that they were declining for the Washington Post to basically embrace or endorse any candidate when they wanted to endorse Kamala Harris. And I don't think that they didn't want to endorse Trump. But in addition to trying to bring some journalistic integrity back to the Washington Post, they also wanted to foster favor because everybody knew that Trump was going to win the election. And so that bodes no different from Mark Zuckerberg. It's funny how once Trump won office, or when they anticipated him winning office, that they all started to get back in line. But let's see what more we can learn from this.
Zuckerberg dynamic, really interesting to note that. So other than these meetings, right, I mean, Trump is by and large filled out a lot of his administration way quicker than he did in 2016. Mm-hmm. So the question now is, what does he do with December, for instance? Do you have any sense of how he plans to spend his time?
Golfing, meeting with people at Mar-a-Lago. I think enjoying the time that he's still in Florida before he comes back to Washington, which has never been a city he especially loves. I think, is it possible he will take a trip somewhere? It's possible, but I don't think there's any plans to at the moment. I think the goal was to try to get as many of these positions in place as possible for a variety of reasons. But one is so that hearings, assuming that they don't get recess appointments and the Senate to recess and then shove a lot of these more controversial nominees through, which I think is not likely. It's still possible. I just think it's not likely at the moment. Assuming there are hearings and Senate confirmation hearings, the goal is to get those done pretty fast so that Trump can hit the ground running once he gets in office. That is part of the goal for this breakneck pace. It's also to avoid some of the jockeying that you had in the 2016 transition. It's not to say there has not been a lot of internal knife fighting in this one, because there has. It's just been different.
All right, Maggie, stick around.
Well, basically, what's happening is he's trying to put himself in position. She's partially right, so that they can hit the ground running. They have 2 years and until the midterms for them to show and prove, and the fact that they control every legislative branch absolutely bodes in their favor. But he's not. He's not just standing still, and that's the other part that she's missing. He's already started to basically govern the United States of America by getting other nations in order. And one of the ways that he did that was to start having conversations about tariffs. If you've read any of Trump's books, including The Art of the Deal, he talks about the fact that you have to, well, I'm not going to deep dive into that because that's more Millionaire Morning Show stuff. But basically, he started negotiations and he started to put pressure on other nations, especially with Canada having a liberal versus conservative conversation, similar to how there was in the United States of America. But he's starting to put things in place to make sure that countries fall in line so that he'll have a smooth transition. And on day one, he can start to govern. And so he's already started to do that. He's put his appointees in place. He's recently filled out his cabinet. In addition to that, he's also had added a speaker. And then more importantly, he started to renegotiate and negotiate with Mexico. And every time he hits office, he automatically renegotiates, similarly to how he renegotiated NAFTA earlier. And he's starting to put pressure and starting to set expectations when it comes to manufacturing inside the United States of America. And so, again, this is what great governance look like. I think that he's learned a lot from his 2016, 17, 18, 19 stint. And now he was able to see quickly who the snakes were in the garden, make some adjustments quickly, put his people in place, already set. I believe that he was already setting the precedent way before he had won the election. The expectation was for him to win the election. And then more importantly, I think that now he's starting to establish the relationships that's going to ensure that we have a great nation, that everybody is on the same page. When you have a lot of division, not conversations, but a lot of division, that doesn't bode well for anybody, and it definitely doesn't add value into what we're trying to do here in the United States of America. So whereas you had a whole bunch of chaos and confusion and immigration and open borders and no order of things over the last 4 years, now the adults is back in office. So y'all let me know what y'all think inside of the chat. I think that this is a great thing. Some people are going to say that they're kissing the ring, and they are. But you have to kiss the ring in order to make sure that you can do business effectively. And it's better to establish relationships and have a great relationship with the people that are in power, whether you're looking at it from a financial side or a political side, than to have them as an adversary, because nothing happens well as an adversary, all right? So make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description. Also, Teach Hanley, 40% off your first order, 20% off for life. And then last but not least, make sure you tap into the Patreon and get your tickets to the show December 14th. And then come and see me in Detroit. The link is in the description along with all of the other details. And then y'all let me know what y'all think inside of the chat. What do you think is being discussed? Or do you think that it's just brokering a better relationship with Trump, with Mark Zuckerberg actually meeting with Trump in Mar-a-Lago and being seen along with his advisors? And what do you think that that's going to turn into? And do you think it also affects other technology companies? I love you. I appreciate you. Y'all let me know what y'all think inside of the comments. Peace.